plastic bottles should be illegal. Peter and Ariana are against, and Zoe and Isabel are for. And Isabel
Stop.
Bottled water should be I think that bottled water should be illegal. To start, considering the fact that we are using tons of oil, we're also wasting energy making these unnecessary, uneco-friendly plastic bottles, adding more garbage to the world. With all the energy we waste, it would be enough to power 190,000 homes. That's not all. Bottled water is a drain on the environment. The U.S. goes through about 50 billion water bottles per year. Yet, even though they can be recycled, most Americans don't. Yes, in many developing countries, bottled water is the only option for clean water. But we live in a country where we can drink water from our tap because it is so clean. We don't need these bottles. Bottled water can also make you sick because of antimony, which is in some bottles. If you consume small doses of antimony, it can cause dizziness and depression. But in larger doses, it can cause nausea, vomiting, or even death. For Canada, I'll give you 4 reasons why bottled water should be illegal. It leads to water shortages, it contributes to climate change, Canadian landfills cannot support bottled water, and water is a human right, which means that we should not have to pay for it. In some cases, you might have no other choice to consume bottled water, but who here would prefer to use a reusable water bottle that does not pollute the world? And did you know that one Nalgene water bottle can last for decades, which makes it easy to not buy single-serve plastic water bottles to fulfill your everyday hydration needs? In conclusion, I think that bottled water should be illegal for health reasons and also to protect the environment.
Woo!
And now Ariana is against.
I think water bottles should be illegal because it's a good source of water for polluted places. So, that's for example Afghanistan. There's a lot of war, so there's lots of gunpowder and could get into the water, so it's very toxic, and you could get sick and die from it. It's very portable, so you can buy it anywhere. So it could prevent dehydration. Whereas water bottles and tap water, you can't get everywhere, and it's also very portable, so you can bring it places. And also the plastic bottle that you're drinking from, it can be reused and for other things you can do with it. And also it can be stored for a long time in the time of an emergency. For example, wouldn't you want water in a plastic bottle then die from dehydration? I think you would. And thank you. You're welcome.
Now Zoe will be debating against.
Oh, Bowen.
Okay. Do you know how much water in this world is drinkable? Only 7% of all the world. And if we are letting big companies like Voss, Aquafina, and Nestle take half of that water, the world is only left with a small 3.5%. Isn't this unfair to humans like me who don't want to spend $3.50 for an average cup of water that might carry diseases? What do I mean by diseases? Something called BPH. BPH is a form of cancer that is in 98% of bottled water. It causes deformities for children and even death. It also causes women and men not to be able to have children. Making bottles to meet America's demand for bottled water uses more than 17 million barrels of oil annually, which is enough to fuel 1.3 million cars, and not even including the oil used for transporting these bottles. You might be thinking, oh well, we can still recycle, but only 23% of people recycle their bottles. Plus, it takes a lot of energy to recycle. So instead, try to reduce the amount you use. Who is lazy here? Come on, be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't it easier to go to your kitchen and get a cold cup of refreshing water? Or would you rather walk out to the store and knowing the weather in Vancouver, it's not always going to be sunny like this, just to get yourself a little bottle of water, knowing that you've stolen somebody's water in Africa? And now that poor little kid has to go walk 7 kilometers to get unsanitary water. Does that seem fair? Because it doesn't to me. Thank you.
Now, you're welcome.
Actually, it is easy that they get on with easy stuff is that they run that front, right in the front, it's really something that they need to do. If you're hiding the plate up front, but you're right in the front. No matter.
How many of you have been to places where the tap water is not good? Exactly. Would you rather drink that tap water or bottled water? Bottled water. Also, Zoe said how companies buy the water, but they buy it first of all, and companies in the US only use 1% of the water. Only 1%, not half. In places where there's not good tap water, they need the bottled water. Like in Africa, she said. Some places in Africa, it's better to get the bottled water than the tap water. In natural disasters, bottled water is critical because the damaged infra makes it impossible to get the tap water. So if you ban bottled water, then you can't drink if you're in a natural disaster. In Flint, Michigan, there is a water crisis. The only way the residents of Flint can get water is with bottled water. If you can recycle bottled water, and it's not the bottled water that is bad for the environment. It's the people who don't recycle it. We should maybe have an ad campaign to encourage recycling. That would be good. In many countries, the water is not drinkable. I said that already. Okay, goodbye.
Now the two sides will talk amongst themselves.
Take that.
Okay. You said that like a lot of these places are being because of say wars, gunpowder, and everything. But did you know that 47% of that pollution is actually from bottled water companies? They just let it out into the water.
Well, but also, only a column of bottled water. There's many pros that outweigh it.
Yeah. Name 3.
Well, first of all, natural disasters, like I said,
And it's
in
way
countries.
healthier than fizzy drinks. Like,
Yeah, and also if you can't get good quality tap water, it's helpful for you.
Well,
safer to drink.
Nestle just took literal water under out of I think it was Michigan's like underneath the ground, and it's creating a whole bunch of sinkholes, droughts over there.
They bought
Which is
it,
natural.
and yeah, so they can
and
sell
the-
water for natural
and
disasters.
the
And also, it's
like the state said they could.
and also
Buy something that's a human right though,
sure you can.
but that's not fair to the people who live there.
Well, it's not fierce like
Well,
black food
they have a
too.
ton of water. If the government wants to sell it, it's the government's choice. Also, bottled water consumption, like
did
I
it
said, for
illegally.
big.
They got sued
They got
just now, 2 weeks ago.
Well, most of the time it's not that illegal. And also bottled water consumption for the companies, they only use less than 1% of the water in the US.
Okay, I was not very you said that they're reusable, but actually when you keep on using them, more like toxic stuff in the plastic comes out of it. It can be
Yeah, but you can like make like DIYs.
DIY water bottles and
Well, it's also good if you're like hiking in the desert and you need water.
so you
There's
go
no
to a gas
fountains.
station just in the desert, just
And-
appears there.
Or maybe if you're hiking, like in Arizona, like
They're reusable water
if you're
bottles.
okay, you would use a water
What if you didn't
plastic
have a
water bottle, you didn't have it, or maybe you ran out of water. You should just buy the bottled water.
So you're in the middle of the desert. Here's a scenario for all of you.
I'm not saying the
Middle of this. Okay, well you took desert, so I'm gonna just take that from you.
Yeah, but
You're in the desert. Suddenly, a gas station appears. Not sketchy at all. You go into that gas station. But does that make sense to you if you're on a hike in
let's talk
wilderness?
about desert in Las Vegas. Why did they spent millions of dollars? Las Vegas is in the desert on water infrastructure when it would have been way cheaper just to use bottled water.
Yes, but if you consider how many people could die from drinking bottled water,
No one died from drinking bottled water.
But they can get sick.
they can get really sick.
Yeah, if you like drink bottled water 24/7.
One of my mom's friends actually can't have kids now because she drank bottled water.
Okay, that's a rare instance.
Wait, how though?
How? It's a rare instance.
Plastic?
Peter, you said that people in kind of a crisis, like in Africa, bottled water is good
Like it hurt me.
because it's handy. But a lot of people in places like Africa they don't have like a place where they can get bottled water. That's very like rare for them because they're just out in the wilderness. They usually have to find their own like resources, stuff like that. So that point doesn't really apply.
Well, sometimes, because Africa, there's a desert called the Sahara. In deserts, there's not much water, right? So, water is scarce, and so why don't we just take some water, bottle it, and put it in Africa so they can drink water?
And also,
And so, I mean, some places, yes, they should use the resources, but in some other places, bottled water would be much easier.
Yeah, but the places like Africa, they don't have like accessibility to bottled water.
Then let's build some bottled water stations.
That's very hard now.
and also like, do you know like UNICEF? Or like it's a foundation. Like they bring like bottled water to like places in need, and it'll be way hard to bring like big like water tanks with like
Water, just filled
Yeah.
with water.
But UNICEF usually is about like helping them with homes and bringing them clothes. It's not more about what they're eating and drinking.
In Mexico, the water from the taps can carry parasites. So for big resorts, do you think it's cheaper to filter the water or buy bottled water?
I would buy bottled water. I don't know why the resorts would spend so much money on having a filtration system. They should just sell bottled water. It would be much easier.
You could heat the water up so the parasites die.
Ariana, how many people do you know that reuse a plastic water bottle?
my parents.
I do too.
And last thing, do you think bottled water tastes worse or better than tap water?
Well, bottled water is sometimes the quality is better. Depends on where you live, right? Because some tap water is better than bottled water, but sometimes the tap water is not that great.
Old house is better.
Here's better, but in many other cities, the bottled water would be better.
Well, I went to Brazil, for example, and they filter their water there, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It ends up being fine. They don't have to go out to buy bottled water. They
Was
can
that
get
in
it
the
for free.
city?
Huh?
Was that in the city?
Yeah, it's in the city.
How big was the city?
I don't know. Just didn't measure it.
If it was a city, then yeah, of course they have the money to do that.
Yeah,
but
so
in
like in
smaller
the
towns,
village.
they don't.
No, it's
Right, one more question. Sylvie.
Ariana, you said the UNICEF, like, it's easier for them to bring little bottles of water, but wouldn't it be easier to bring big tanks because they're using less plastic, but bringing the same amount of water and then just giving everybody cups?
Well, like some like plastic cups, for example, like giving a bunch of them is actually like even worse than
Also, you just try to balance, try not to spill some water while you're walking from your house to.
Woo!